It's now my pleasure to introduce again, after bringing her on last year, Heather Zichal. Heather's the president and CEO of the American Clean Power Association. So Heather, I'll turn things over to you, and thanks again for joining us this afternoon. Welcome back.
Thanks so much. It's great to join you. All right. Why don't we go to the next slide? The American Clean Power Association, for those that haven't heard of us, is a clean energy trade association that was created last year from the American Wind Energy Association and other groups. We just passed our exciting 1-year anniversary as a new trade group, and I think personally, I think our timing couldn't have been better. The goal of ACP is to make clean energy the dominant electricity source in the United States by uniting the power of our 700 member companies of all sizes in solar, wind, storage, and transmission. The really fun part of my job every day is that we get not only represent the manufacturers, but we have the construction companies, developers and owner operators, utilities, financial firms, and corporate purchasers in the clean energy value chain. Like our industry and the companies we represent, we are growing, and we recently merged with the U.S. Energy Storage Association, and that really reflects the growth in the battery energy storage system market. It's really hard to overstate how much progress we've made so quickly as an industry, but I do think it bears taking some perspective to look back in order to look forward. Not to date myself, but I think a recap of energy and climate policy over the last 20 years is important. I came to DC 20 years ago to work on energy and environmental policy in the House and Senate for now Chairman Pallone and now Secretary turned Climate Envoy John Kerry. That was a time when many in Washington dismissed clean energy as science fiction. Fast forward to 2009 in the White House, and we clawed to get the Recovery Act passed with what was the largest investment ever in clean energy, more than $90 billion in strategic clean energy investments and tax incentives. Compare that to the last 2 years. We had a president that ran on climate change and said it was one of our 4 big markers by which his presidency would be judged. We are, for the first time in the United States, standing up an entire offshore wind industry. And last year we passed a clean energy investment with the Bipartisan Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that provides $65 billion for clean energy and grid transmission enhancements. A great reminder that Democrats and Republicans are finding solutions to clean energy together. Next slide. So think about that. The Bipartisan Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act marks the largest investment in transmission, and it included a provision that was drafted by ACP to provide effective federal siting authority for lines. It was legislative machinery meeting the moment. Next slide. So what I'm seeing when I look back is very simple. The clean energy transformation is happening. Over time, we are making the phrase clean energy feel redundant as the power sector and corporate buyers shift toward clean energy. Next slide. Last year, we installed more wind, solar, and battery storage than any year in history. Demand continues to grow. Utilities and corporate buyers announced more than 17 gigawatts of clean energy contracts. And there's currently a record 110 gigawatts of clean power under construction or in advanced development. These projects represent hundreds of billions of dollars in capital investments and are going to support jobs across the country. Now, it's also worth noting, as Aaron alluded to, that those investments and those projects won't happen without key policy and the right regulatory frameworks in place. And just to round things out, I mean, I spend a lot of time thinking about the early days in the Obama administration when we were sort of figuring out if we could dare to envision a future where we were hitting double digits in clean energy. And, today we're there. There's enough wind and solar farms and battery storage facilities to power 52 million American homes. Next slide. But what's clear is, as important as 2021 was, 2022 will be the year that determines whether we accelerate progress or whether we plateau. The stakes are huge. We're 2 years into the decisive decade on climate, and the energy transformation we've all been waiting for is happening, and it's irreversible. As you saw on the previous slide, there are now almost 1,000 clean energy projects underway in the United States. The question isn't whether we move to clean energy, it's whether we do it in time. Next slide. So what does that mean? Two things. One, we're at the goal line to pass the Build Back Better Act with more than $500 billion in investment in clean energy. Our investments aren't the sticking point, they're broadly supported. We need to finish that job. Second, how do we keep everyone engaged collaboratively on regulation and policy at the state, local, and federal level, up and down the chains of government? Climate and clean energy touches every issue, foreign and domestic. We need to navigate these market and regulatory issues carefully, thoughtfully, and with eyes wide open. So we will have a huge agenda and engagement to stay focused on progress. And here's why I'm optimistic. At ACP, we talk about the United States of clean energy. It's red states, it's blue states, it's purple states. I'm convinced our base of support is deepening. Our constituency is everyone and everywhere. And I want to underscore, with it comes jobs for everyone. We can create 500,000 to 600,000 jobs over the next decade across every single state, including 40,000 electricians and 8,500 metal fabricators above and beyond the BLS's current projections. Those are two of America's most unionized industries. The smart thing to do for climate change will also be the right thing to do for America's blue-collar workforce. And I believe that if we can complete progress this year and a few sticking points that remain, it's not just off to the races, that's already happening, but it's a kind of acceleration that's unstoppable, and that's in everyone's interest. That's how America wins. The very best part is this really is just the beginning, and I look forward to your questions, Andrew.
Thank you very much, Heather. Really appreciate the presentation, and it's great to have you back here just after your first anniversary. So congratulations, first of all. And I wonder if you could, talk about your expectations going into 2021 and what you've experienced over the past year. How has the experience with growing ACP been different or right along the lines of what you expected?
Well, I think for starters, the enthusiasm around this very basic notion that we're going to have one trade association that speaks on behalf of all clean energy technologies. I've candidly been surprised at how much time and effort our members have been, really spending working through our committees, some of the tough issues. I've been really delightfully surprised at how, as I mentioned, we represent a lot of different technologies, a lot of different business models, but it's been really exciting to see that everybody's kind of able to check that and really focus on our mission, which is to deploy as much clean energy as responsibly and quickly as possible. I think that enthusiasm is only going to continue to grow as we, see more and more projects across the country as we continue to create new jobs and tackle the climate challenges. So it was a great first year. I will also say, Andrew, I guess I've worked in a lot of different jobs in high pressure situations, and I've heard the term "we're building the plane while we fly it" a lot, but I don't think I ever internalized it as much as I did in this last year, where we're trying to transition an organization to, no longer just wind, but wind, solar storage, and transmission, and do that at a historic time when you're trying to pass Build Back Better and we're trying to work with the new administration. So we have an amazing team at ACP we had a great first year, and I think we're only going to continue to get stronger and to be better.
Great. Well, I hope you've had a chance to get some sleep through all that as well. But yeah, again, congratulations. And also you touched on offshore wind, and I think it was visible there, some of the Atlantic coast projects in the map that you showed. But could you talk a little bit about what you see as the potential for offshore wind in terms of increasing wind in the generation mix?
Absolutely. Well, this administration has taken the important steps to get projects into the water and to get the pipeline of decisions moving, which is tremendous, right? I mean, it's hard for us to talk about, building a domestic supply chain for offshore wind if you don't have the certainty and predictability that these projects are going to be, these projects are going to be able to be permitted, and that that financing is going to, come together, and we're going to be able to move forward. So I look at the target of 30 gigawatts by 2030 that the Biden administration has put out there is certainly aggressive, but absolutely achievable. I'm really excited about some of the opportunities with job creation that we see, right? Like, we were in West Virginia, some of our members, to talk about the fact that this steel that's going into the first Jones Act compliant ship that's going to be building offshore wind turbines off the coast of Virginia. It's exciting to see like all the supply chain job opportunities, and a lot of just talking about that one ship, for example. What we're also realizing as we are trying to focus on a just energy transition, a lot of jobs that the oil and gas rig workers, a lot of those job skill sets are very transferable to oil and gas. I'm sorry, to offshore wind. And so, I think there's tremendous opportunity there. We are, obviously partnering closely with this administration to get the projects, as I said, through the pipeline. But I really, truly believe we're going to, stand up offshore wind in the United States for the first time, which is exciting, especially given that there are other countries that are very, very far ahead of us. And we all hate to see, we all want to make America first when it comes to offshore wind.
Exactly. It's a great opportunity to restore some leadership there. So, Heather, that's all I have for you today, but I'd just like to thank you again. It's great to have you back for a second time this year, and hope we'll be able to welcome you back again next year. But again, happy anniversary to ACP, and thanks for joining us.